Hello and good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity. It's a real great pleasure to be here today. And thank you so much for your time being here today. I really enjoyed the panel discussion, and I hope that some of the projects that we've done around the reuse, regeneration, or I would say heritage reinterpretation, it could be a response, or it kind of builds on the discussion the panel discussion had. Um, this is a map, and it's very typical when we refer to the ecology in this region. The first thing that comes to our mind is a desert. Looking more deeply in this region, there's quite, I would say, very diverse sets of ecology. We have from wetlands, we have oases, we have the wadis, coastline, and it's quite a very diverse set of ecology. And we kind of, as architect, we've been kind of blessed to kind of deal or had a chance to design in different contexts across the region. And for us, it's always the challenges, okay, on one side as architect, as a designer, we have to respond to the time and we have to adapt to the time and we have to do architecture that captures the essence of the time. But at the same time, how do we respond to these different contexts? How do we do architecture that is adaptive, that is contextual, that is sensible, and it acts as a healing, it acts as a kind of a response to the challenge of the context that we have. I will maybe go through sets of projects around similar topics in different contexts that we have worked on. This is the Wasat wetland. It's located almost it is in the border of Sharjah and Ajman. It's in a kind of quite a dense urban environment. And it's a kind of, I would say, a very good candidate plot to be turned into a kind of a real estate project. The project used to be, I would say, in the 90s, late 90s, it was a dumped area. So where you had the industries, the people, contractors. So all the waste from that neighborhood, from surrounding, they used to dump into the place, which as a result, this beautiful wetland had been damaged, destroyed, and many of these trees and bushes, they were kind of replaced by toxic trees, which had almost damaged all I would say, the environment. The process started of purifying the site, almost getting rid of the unnecessary plants, bushes, and kind of replanting more indigenous plant into the site. The site has the kind of a natural ecosystem that during the different season of the time, the water naturally kind of comes, it changes its level. As a result, the site regenerated itself, as you see here, in very natural and a very diverse environment. You have wonderful birds, both indigenous and migrant birds that they use the site almost as a home, and they've been using as a kind of as a platform, especially for the migrant bird to fly through. So we started here by kind of analyzing the site. The site has multiple layers. We're looking at the dense tree environment that protects the site from the noise, from the wind, and at the same time creates a beautiful shade and cools down the environment. We had bushes, that this kind of dense and diverse bushes, it creates an amazing environment for the bird to nest, but at the same time, it creates feeding and it creates a kind of different type of seed for them. And you have the water body itself, which plays a very important role in the ecology of the site. So this is an image of the site. It keeps changing throughout the seasons, throughout the year, as the water table it changes, and it's almost the site has a very beautiful, I would say, natural cycle within an urban context, which is very unique to see in this region. Like any other project, we had a program. We had to build a breeding research center, a visitor center, and the challenge was how we do architecture that does not compete this beautiful, wonderful environment, but rather it complements and it builds itself within the context. Almost anything we do, any building we would have done in that site, it would have been kind of maybe competing the environment, and at the same time would have created maybe a landscape that is not safe for the birds to land and to live in this place. So we started by mapping different programs to understand the site. We went deeper. We walked through the site. We tried to kind of sense the topography, the different natural environment. We mapped the noise, and we started to find there's this wonderful change of terrain on the site. And we thought that instead of video architecture that is almost act as an object to the site, what about video architecture that camouflages? We use the terrain to almost build architecture within it. So the gallery is almost submerged itself within the terrain and it becomes hidden. And you have the services that is beautifully built against the terrain. And in one side, it acts it's almost as part of the terrain, but at the same time, it's tilted toward the north, which creates a kind of natural environment for some birds like ibis to have a maximum shade as they live there. So this is the conception, this is the idea of the gallery. So almost you are within an indoor environment as a visitor, and the birds are in an open environment. And these are one of the images of the cages and the gallery. As the time passes, the trees are growing, and almost the architecture is disappearing. So almost this concept of the zero architecture, the architecture is really camouflaging. This photo was taken in 2019, just before the Aga Khan Award. And I was there, I was visiting there almost 6 months back, and the trees have grown much more. And almost the architecture, you see that it's disappearing more. But however, the experience of the place, the experience of the people, of the visitor, is in a way becoming richer and it's quite becoming very diverse. Here's the detail how the section works. The section works in a way that to give a maximum or the best experience for the people. So the gallery is sunk in a way that we as a visitor, we have a very close relation to the birds. I've seen at certain point where the birds are almost nesting 20, 30 centimeters from the glass. And the reason is because we have tilted the glass on the both sides that reflects the landscape, so they never see the inside. And closer to the glass is a bit cooler, which in a way it attracts the birds to come there. We have this, the middle spine, as you see it in the section. That spine, it acts as an infrastructure of the building. So on one side, it accommodates the structure, the MEP, and all the utility of the building. But at the same time, it acts as a interpretive element that gives kind of knowledge and information about the bird and about the migration of the bird across the region. Here are some of the images of the site. So as you see here, this is a view looking directly into the wetland. There are so many birds that have chose to make this wetland a house or a home. So as they migrate, they land here and they stay there because it's safe. There are food and everything is available. And there are many birds that are breeded in this site and they let back into the nature every year. And there's a beautiful mapping by the Sharjah Environmental Agency that shows the birds where they are in the world and how the center has contributed back to regenerating and rehabilitating endangered birds around the world. The center has become truly an educational place, and that teaches people, younger generation, on one side about the bird, but at the same time about the importance of natural rehabilitation, which I would say is quite a unique concept, which in this region, instead of kind of always all the natural environment turning into development, real estate, which in many cases it makes sense, it generates money and all of that, but at the same time it's important to maintain the heritage of our natural environment, to rehabilitate them, and to protect them for the future generation, and to educate the future generation on this topic. Here is another project that again it deals maybe with more of an reuse, regeneration, cultural intervention, heritage kind of rehabilitation as well. It's Sheikh Mohammed bin Khalifa House. It's in Al Ain. It's located in a very unique place. It's close to the Al Ain oasis in very close proximity. This was the project when we kind of started the work. The significance of the house is that it's designed in vernacular way. It's done during the transitional period, sometimes between late 50s and 60s. And it was one of the first villas or house that they use concrete, reinforced concrete to build in Al Ain. And that were the significance. So this was the condition of the house when we started. Many parts were there, but the parts were not there. We started by, I would say, really deep mapping with the collaboration with client TCA in Abu Dhabi. We started by physically kind of mapping the site. We started doing full 3D laser kind of simulation of the site, doing discussion and having interviews with the people who lived on the site, mapping the history of the site. So what was the first phase, second phase, why was it built, and how as the family expanded and the family grew, there were different requirements and the whole house started to expand. And one kind of challenge and at the same time beauty was that although the original condition was made out of precast, was made out of concrete, reinforced concrete, the expansions, they used different construction techniques. So you had a block, they use coral, they had a block, they use reinforced stone walls, or they use different technique of construction, which kind of made the regeneration or reinterpretation quite much more challenging. So these were, we looked at different blocks. We start to map the kind of distinct elements, architecture element that they were existing on the site and what to be preserved and what is not there. And we start to map the texture based on a different construction technique that had been built different time and different period of time. And the solution was not a direct solution that we do, I don't know, we will do a conservation project or we do a repair. What we found, it's a combination of multiple conservation strategy that we built and start to give a response to the house. So there were elements that simply needed to be conserved and with a minor repair to maintain them. There were elements like windows had to be repaired. Many of the windows we had on site. Some structure element, I will show the images later, they were absolutely gone. The steel bars were absolutely kind of rotted and all of that. Reconstruction, we refer to elements that we don't have any memory, nor we have images, nor anything available on the site. So they were kind of open to new interpretation that we could all, in a way, mark that these were the interpretation of today's and what was built in 50s. And at the same time, of course, the installment of the new element, like the staircase, they had no handrail. It was not part of the regulation 60 years ago to have handrail within the staircase. So in this case, we had to do a new intervention. So these were the process of the design. So we start by mapping the existing elevation, and then drawing it, identifying every element, and then start to kind of design the elevation. So each elevation, and at the end, we went almost into each column, because what we found as we start to map and start to test the column, each column had a different reinforced within them. So we found a column that had only one reinforced in the middle, and it had kind of sustained itself for 60 years. So in a way, we had to give a different response to all of that, as you see here. So these were part of the structural regeneration. We use a carbon fiber to kind of strengthen columns, walls. Sometimes we had to carve the column to, in a way, to take out the kind of the steel and to replace with the new steel. And the same exercise went into the foundation. We almost cut the foundation. The whole site became like a rabbit holes. And we measured each kind of foundation. And not only we had to relook at the strength, we had to make sure that the new foundation, they do meet today's regulation when it comes to the structure. So every foundation, it has been tested and has been expanded, or it has been made kind of maintained to kind of to be sustainable, and at the same time to sustain the strength of the building. And we went on, looked at the windows. We mapped the windows. Some windows, the frame were there, the glass were not there, and sometimes it was vice versa. We started to map the colors on the site. There were so many remaining colors. Of course, we had a discussion with the people who lived in the house to kind of get a sense of the color. We looked at the photos, but at the same time, we did a laser kind of sectional cut of through the existing color and to see kind of unveil what was the original color of the house. So these were the result. As you see, so the project is really designed in a wonderful way. So all the actual spaces are built within the arcade. They are beautifully shaded. They're kind of beautifully protected, kind of environmentally. So always the interior space are quite cool. They have quite a very thick walls, but at the same time, it creates this wonderful shade and shadow, a rhythm, a color that is beautifully embedded, I would say, within the heritage of the place. This was the process of restoring the existing door and kind of bring it back to reality, and it gives this wonderful view and kind of the entrance of the building. We went on, almost we even looked at the flooring. We all have a memories with this old terrazos, 10 by 10 or 15 by 15. We mapped them on the site. We kind of can number them. We had to dismantle them during the construction. And as we finish the project, we bring them back, and they're currently on the use and is part of the everyday life of the building. So these are overall project. So it does have the existing section, as you see here, and then we have the extension that I will be talking about it. So we had to build extension here to accommodate new program, and we had extension here to connect a different program with each other. The program is very diverse. It's not a typical, I would say, a cultural center, or it's not a visitor center. It's a mix of multiple programs. So you've got cafes, you've got library, you've got workshop, you've got an open space that accommodates lots of multiple programs throughout the year. And at the same time, it's a visitor center, it's a museum, and it functions like any other cultural kind of facility. These were the sections, showing how the new build and old build, they come together and they talk to each other in a kind of very sensible and very beautiful way. And this is the process of entering the house. So we had the block A, which was the public kind of block. So this is the main entry of the house. So as you enter, you have a wall here that kind of protects the courtyard as the guests they enter and the family. You walk in through the wall. You have a secondary wall, which gives a second layer of privacy, which is and gives this really wonderful space to kind of open into kind of a smaller space. And as you walk around that wall, you see this beautiful courtyard. It opens up, and you have the manama in the middle, which this was a really public and family program. Family used to sleep there at night, and at the same time, the place that family gathered throughout in the evening, having dinner and so on. So these are design of some of the spaces. This space, we had the beautiful photo of late Sheikh Zayed with government officials meeting some foreign government entities, and it was kind of regenerated to represent the image. Of course, we had to bring in lots of MEPs and all of that. We retained the structure of the ceiling. We retained the building intact, and we have this kind of a mesh that start to comes down and it almost hides all the MEP within it and minimize the impact of the MEP into the heritage and kind of cultural building. And there's some other spaces how interpretation has been adapted itself to the space. So there are part of the project talks about the Sheikh Mohammed bin Khalifa, who was the representative of Sheikh Zayed in Al Ain. The part talks about the history of the architecture of the building itself, and then you have other narratives about the Al Ain, about the Al Ain oasis, which is scattered around the house. I know I have only almost time is up. I will only limit to this project. It was quite important. We had to build the extension, and the extension was to accommodate and to respond to the existing building. So we started by mapping the existing building. We found there's this wonderful rhythm, and then there's wonderful layers of you have arcade, you have interior space, which makes the building very environmental. and kind of makes the building very, I would say, sustainable. So we learned from that. We created this building, this structure, which is very modern, very contemporary. As you see here, the programs are built in. We have the skin that opens up and closes. So during the summer, the building is closed. And during the winter, we open it up and we start to build a dialogue between the building and the courtyard. So these were the images or the process of how the skin, it keeps open. We did, of course, the mock-up was done in the factory, how the skin, it opens up and it will kind of respond to different conditions and so on. And then we had to test that on the site as the actual mock-up was built and it was completed on the site. So the skin, it really opens up, as you see here, and it creates this wonderful relation between the interior, cafes, the arcade, and the courtyard. And these are the images of how the skins opens up. And at the same time, it creates this wonderful shade and shadow that the new building starts to cast into the kind of the historical building, and they build this dialogue of exchange of kind of, shade and shadow and all of that. Here's some of the images of the building. All the programs are built in, they're very protected, and in a way they are kind of shaded across and throughout the year. I'll just go fast. So the materiality we use in the landscape, which is a compacted sand. We use the sand from the site to reinforce it and to be able to do a landscape that is purely built from the sand of the site. Some video shows the process, how we build the compacted sand. And these were the outcome of the plaza. There were, of course, as we were building, many archaeologies that they were found on site, and we dealt with them. Some of them we protected, some of them we exhibited, and some of them we kind of protected and we enclosed it in order to maintain it for the future and so on. So the site has become a real active and public place where you have people throughout the festival, especially during the time when the weather is nice, is a really active and public place where people of Al-Ain, they visit there on their day-to-day visit and kind of for different purpose. I think I'll stop here. So thank you so much.